sometimes I wake up and I wonder to myself, what would it be like if no one ever told me I had cerebral palsy?
Yeah.
Because
Mm.
I don't go out there to inspire people to go, the worst thing I want is someone to walk away and go, well, if Cam can do it, I can do it. Because every single one of us has different challenges, your challenges are your challenges are real. And what you perceive to be my challenges, I probably don't even really think about. So I've just gone, a lot of people are living a life where they either get comfortable or they stop striving towards more, and I'm talking right across the board here. I'll speak at events at schools, right through to real estate, corporate, all sorts, people going through challenges in life, whatever that may be, people who are hugely successful. And my kind of challenge, my inspiration is just, are you making the most of that opportunity that you do have?
If you're going to judge somebody on their job or their achievements or their possessions rather than who they are day to day, if you sit in a room with somebody and have a heart to heart and you have a real genuine chat, it's not because they're an accountant or a solicitor or a teacher or a doctor. It's because they're a fun, healthy, minded person to spend time with.
And why I was concerned about that wasn't for how he perceived me, but what happens in his life if something comes up and he gets challenged or acquires a disability? What is he
Mm.
going to believe about himself then? And therefore, how much is he going to limit his potential, or the potential of someone who may come to him once and apply for a job, and all he's going to see is everything that guy can't do? People will say to me, "Oh, Cam, do you ever think about what life would be like if you didn't have cerebral palsy?" No, I don't, because fuck, I can't. One, I can't change that, and two, like, no. Do you know what life would be like if you were a female or male or whatever, right? Some people out there might go, "Yeah, I do," but and generally you are who you are. Disabled definition comes down to you can't do something. And whether you've got that label on you from birth or you require it, well, are you going to let it rule you?
If we can all be our completely authentic idiot dickhead selves, everything's much more fun.
Yeah, don't,
Yes.
and don't be afraid to be vulnerable. And that's the other thing. A lot of people think, oh, I've got to be polished and got to go out and being vulnerable is real. A lot of people say, did you get bullied at school and a hard time and all that stuff? But I was always like, what can I do to build a connection with all these kids here? Because
Mm.
if I walk into a school and I start acting a bit weird because I'm scared that people aren't going to accept me and I'm hiding in the corner and I'm not talking with people and I'm not letting people know who I am and I'm not wishing people a good day and I'm not smiling at people, people are going to think I'm weird anyway, right? And then you throw in the fact that you walk different and talk different and you've just created this big storm for yourself in terms of how the school or the universe perceives you.
Would you be like if you weren't disabled? It's like that's something you can't change.
No.
And if you can't change it, why are you wasting your energy on that? Why not look at the things that you can impact?
Everything comes down to perspective and just, oh, instead of worrying about the way I talk, because the first time I was asked to give a speech, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I can't even understand myself sometimes, and
A big part of becoming an artist is that curiosity of like, can I do this thing? What would that look like? And then making what comes out of your hands or out of your mouth on stage match what's in your head. Like, can I make a show that will kill and inspire? And you have to like really be willing to embrace failure.
what's the difference between that accent and my cerebral palsy? So instead of seeing it as a speech impediment, what would my life look like if I saw that as an accent?
It would be really shit though if you had cerebral palsy and you were German and you were trying to speak English. You would be incomprehensible.
German people with cerebral palsy.
Good luck. Good luck. We're talking about wanting to conquer the world and be the best that we can be, and yet challenges are going to come up, but that's part of life. and it's how we perceive it, it's how we deal with it.
Because we've had that curiosity and we've embraced that creativity. And I think a big part of becoming an artist is that curiosity of like, can I do this thing? What would that look like? And then making what comes out of your hands or out of your mouth on stage match what's in your head.
Apart in a disabled car park. No, I don't have a disabled label. I don't believe in it. I don't feel I need it. But give us, I walked out of my car and put on a limp.
I am disabled, honest.
You know, like, come on, mate. Everyone's like, what the fuck? I'll probably walk more normal with my limp, right? So, yeah, there's a bizarre thing, life.
Why do you not have the blue placard?
Why do I need it? I don't want to buy into that. I'm lucky I don't need it, right? I can walk. I have mobility. I have fitness. So someone said you've got to be committed and you've got to be focused and you've got to not let stuff get in the way. And if you do, you're a failure. But when we start going, oh, I don't like this, and when we start thinking, oh, I don't like myself, and when we start to dig ourselves into a really big hole because we're now doing stuff just for the sake of doing it, and we're doing it because of all the assumptions we have around it.
Is that something, have you always been like that since you're a little kid?
I've always been a dreamer, you know. I remember, you know, my tree house, it was bigger, it was more gnarly than any other tree house in the neighborhood. Had broken windows, it had a massive slide, and when I'd get to the top, I dreamed a dream. And then in things like school assembly, when you're here in I was in Hawke's Bay, and you're sitting on my old school floor, and you're getting a sore ass, you're sitting down, and I just imagine myself like being a fighter jet or being in the army, and you know, never once did I think I couldn't do that. It was just a way of getting through the challenge of being in assembly. And then as I got older, I just repositioned that into stuff that I actually could do.
It's all based around what don't you have? You don't have the new car. You want to get that thing. Your neighbor has a nicer house, so you want to get a nicer house. Advertising is just, here's a thing you don't have that you need to be happy. And when you are forced by circumstance to stop and see where you are and what does make you happy, and then you get to do it. Like, I mean, like I was saying, you know, when I go on stage, I'm giving to the audience, but the side effect is I get that love, that connection that I want. So by giving, you get, and you have to like really be willing to embrace failure, which with disabilities, you're like, oh yeah, no, I've already done that. I've disappointed my father-in-law profoundly because I can't do the things that he thinks I should do. So let's just go the fuck ahead and have fun.
Okay, I'm going to focus on that, and I'm going to be the best that I can be at that, and I'm going to work towards it, and I'm going to embrace opportunity. And you want to be around people that get you thinking and stimulated and all that stuff. And the more difference we have around us, the more we get that, you know. If I feel sorry for people that are stuck and they're just around the same people, and the people that don't light them up, or they've only seen that little part of the world, you know. One of the greatest things I got growing up was the opportunity to see how other people live and to travel the world. And that wasn't because we had money, we didn't. It was just about going. Mum and Dad valued that, you know. They wanted us to see how other people lived so that we could appreciate how we lived and we could see those opportunities more. When I was mentoring some young people with disabilities, and some who had disabilities their entire life, they grew up believing that everyone else will do something for you. And there was a feeling of entitled to this. I'm entitled to be supported. And when we start to give ourselves that mentality, rather than how we started this whole conversation of stepping out there and offering ourselves to the universe, we block ourselves. But when we look to make a contribution, whatever that contribution may be, we start to see the opportunities.
When I was sitting there with my foot off, it was very much like, okay, that's not ideal. What do I do? How do we be practical about this? And it crossed my mind, oh, you might lose your foot. And it's like, okay, that's not an issue right now. That's kind of unimportant. And so I think that's one of the positive things taken from being disabled, is it kind of makes you prioritize what are you going to pay attention to. And at that point, my priority was, should probably get a lift out of here. Should probably need a hand. I had a friend that wanted to learn guitar, but said, oh, but I'm never going to be a famous guitarist. And it's like, yeah, but you might learn 2 or 3 chords. Wouldn't that be fun? And it's like just having that, let's give it a go. Let's aim towards something, but enjoy it along the way. Having those people that are 100% behind you and you are equally 100% behind them, everyone steps up. Everyone gets to have a better life, a more fulfilled, exciting life.
And the goal was that we were going to refurbish the house bus and we were going to tour around schools and do like some kind of school family magic show thing. And we were going to live on the road and it was going to be great. And we never got there. We refurbished it and we just sold it. But it was the push towards the thing that's the important part, and the not stopping. That's the important part. Is like, I'm going to keep pushing. And if I don't get there and something else happens and I need to do a different thing, that's fine. But like still having that cool goal, that vibe, that I don't want to say vibe, but
that having that attitude throughout it doesn't matter what the actual end result is, but that attitude of pushing onto things, having a goal, being positive about it. It would be so easy to sit in my lounge and be like, oh no, I can't risk going out because I might have a seizure, or, you know, feeling a bit scared of the world. And it's like, I could sit in my lounge all day long, but there's stuff that I want to do. I want to get out and do some things. And so I think, say with you, I don't think you see yourself as disabled. You don't go, oh, morning, I'm Cam, I'm disabled. I don't wake up and go, hey, I'm Nay, I've got seizures. It's like, oh yeah, that kind of happens in the sort of back of your mind. The actual you, the actual one who's doing stuff, doesn't have that label.
People can smell inauthenticness from miles away. Like, everyone is so used to being lied to by corporations and advertising. And so when you come along and you're like, I am not bullshitting you. This is my life. This is how I get through. And this positivity that I have, or this viewpoint, is 100% not false.
When you say you're an inspirational speaker, people go, oh, awesome. Can you inspire me now? You know, I can inspire people. I can walk the horse to water, or whatever the saying is. But motivation is, you've got to move, right? You've got to then take action, and that's up to the individual. But there's a desire in what I do, but I provide enough inspiration that they go out there and go, you know what, fuck, I've always wanted to do that thing, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to smash it.
Told us about the time sexually assaulted the woman he was standing next to and just grabbed her tits. And then he was like, and I bet she never washed those tits again. And we were like, she did. She definitely washed those tits.
I'll buzz that name out in the edit. We don't want to get done for that.
What? He's dead.
Yeah, but still, it's like, kind of, we can't make unfounded claims. Now we've got to edit it out twice.
What are you talking about? A random American cruise ship tourist told me that happened, so it's got to be true.
If you're honest with yourself and with who you are, people are generally pretty pleased with that. Like, if you put on your front and you've got that public persona and people can see that you're a fraud and people see that you're being awkward or that you're hiding yourself, there's no incentive for them to, you know, to be around you. It's like, oh, that's just a person with a face on. Whereas when people see your absolute sort of your full self, like when you've got no filters, I think people are quite happy to come along with them because it gives them the option to also be themselves.
I can climb Mount Kilimanjaro. That was one of my highlights, you know, and it wasn't about climbing it. It was about going, what do I need to be inspired to make this dream my reality? Because a lot of people will have a goal. They'll go, I want to climb Kilimanjaro, and then they let life get in the way. And I knew that that was going to be part of the problem for the majority of my audiences. Right? To go, oh, I want to do that, but things are going to get in the way. So for me to get to Kilimanjaro, I contacted 20 people and I invited them all to come up with me. And then I had 19 people, and those 19 people are what kept me accountable. So on those days when it's wet and cold and shitty, I'm like, well, if I stop, I'm going to disappoint the rest of that team. So building that team around you is really vital and important. In my view, I've always seen it as a person with a disability, because you're also a person who is female, a person who is male, a person who is blonde, a person who is gay, a person who is straight. You know, we have all these things, and above that is our name, Stephen, Cameron, Naomi, and that's who we are. And we've got all these little bits underneath us, just like every single one of us is. And it's now, what part of that life are you gonna let define you more? Or are you just gonna take that awesome from every bit? And awesome, you know, starts with awe. And so awe is always the things that are a little bit scary. You don't think you can do it, but you get to the other side of it and you're like, oh, that's awesome. You know, I can be that person. In my view, I've always seen it as a person with a disability, because you're also a person who is female, a person who is male, a person who is blonde, a person who is gay, a person who is straight. You know, we have all these things, and above that is our name, Stephen, Cameron, Naomi, and that's who we are. And we've got all these little bits underneath us, just like every single one of us is. And it's now, what part of that life are you gonna let define you more?
When you were born, like when you were young, what were there limits put on what you can do? Were there expectations of what you'd be able to
Did teachers say like, oh no, you can't go out for the football team, or you can't do this thing or that
or
thing?
even like medically, like with the doctors?
Yeah, at first, all of that stuff, you know. So the doctors presented mum and dad, they said, you know, he's going to have a great future in this wheelchair, and, you know, walking frames and calipers and speech therapy and physiotherapy. That will be life. And for the first 7 years, we did do that. We did do the physiotherapy. We did do the speech therapy, because there was something in that. But what I found really annoying is that everyone would always compare me to an able-bodied person, or they'd say, oh, he can't touch his toes. That's a really bad thing. So bad he can't touch his toes. And I'm like, what the heck do I need to touch my toes for? You know, I'm pretty happy to be standing up vertical, you know?
Public speaking.
Yeah.
Do you think that kind of became like a functional speech therapy almost, and you found that like over
100%.
time your speech got better?
100%. You know, it's a muscle, it's a strength, it's you're learning about cadence and moving and what calms you down.
My very first acting job, I got the role. Actually, the way I got the role is I bumped into the guy who's making the film, and he said, oh, I think you'd be really good as an extra in this film. I'll send you the information. So he sent it through, and it said, looking for criminal low-life scum. And I was like, well, thanks very much for saying I'd fit that. But the night before we started filming, he called me and said, what do you like at delivering lines? And I went, yeah, awesome. Had never delivered a line in my life, but I thought, well, if I say I'm awesome, I'll get it. And so on the night of filming, it got to when I was going to say my line, and I was like, oh my God, I feel so shy. I feel so embarrassed. And it was like, I just want to hide a little bit, and I'm going to say it a bit quietly. And they were like, okay, time to say your line. And I thought, I've got to shout it. It was an angry line. And I thought, it's going to look pathetic if I say it a bit meekly. And so I had to belt it out. And it was like, at that point, it was like, oh, if you just go all in and sod what anyone might think and let go of that embarrassment of not wanting to draw attention to yourself, it had a much better impact. It went really well. And I got a few roles from that.
Most people who go on stage are profoundly narcissist in the first place.
Yeah, but the trick is we don't let them know. That's where the acting comes in, darling.
I walk funny and I talk funny and I'm not drunk. When I stopped being an athlete, I didn't think of myself as being a Paralympic athlete or a disabled athlete. I was just an athlete. Yeah, I can be thinking about the 2,000 people that are in the audience. I can be thinking about, oh my gosh, I'm going to get so hot and I'll be sweaty, and what if I forget my words, and what if I'm not long enough, or, you know, in terms of time, all that stuff. or I just stop and I start doing figure of eights in my head, in my mind. I start doing left right brain exercises and just going, what is the feel that I want these people to get? And what I want people to get is I want them to walk away having spent 60 minutes and gone, my life can be what I want it to be.
When I called for a helicopter, I was like, okay, so I don't know how long I'll be here because I'm not a priority, because I'm not dying, you know, somebody in a car crash or whatever, they should come first. And so it's like, I might be here for a while. So, okay, I've got my tent ready if I need to get that out. I put my warm things on because I was under tree cover. I might not be found for a while. I took some paracetamol just in case it might start hurting a bit more.
Yeah.
So I took my painkillers and I had my water, and it was like, okay, I've done all the practical stuff and got the helicopter on the way. And it's like, then I had to be mindful, because I thought, if I focus on the wrong thing here, I might, because it wasn't hurting really at that point. It's like, if I start thinking about my ankle, I'm going to have some pain. And so I thought, okay, I need to do something to keep some positivity. And so I tidied up some sticks, because that's something I could do. I couldn't get away from the situation. I couldn't get away from pain that might happen. I couldn't get away from the brokenness, but I could focus my attention here and play a little bit. It's like, oh, I'll make a little stick house or whatever.
The reasons for saying yes to stuff were way more awesome than the perceptions for saying no. But I'd walk up to kids and I'd say, hey, look, I can't skateboard because my balance isn't as good as yours. I'd give them a compliment. I'd make them feel good. But I have my scooter, so I've got my handles. I can hold on to that. And with that, I can go wherever you go. And so now what we've done is, well, actually, sure, he can still play with us. That's pretty cool. He's made me feel good because he's just said about I've got awesome balance, and this is what we want to do together. Moving on from being an athlete was really scary because this is where my support circle was. This is everyone I knew. I told everyone, but I wasn't going to stop until I was #1 in the world. And then other opportunities came up, and I was really conflicted. I was like, what do I do? Like, do I stay doing this thing I don't really want to do anymore? Or do I move on? But if I move on, what will I lose? And someone said to me, Cam, people don't support you for what you do. They support you for who you are. But you know, I was jumping in an Uber the other day here in New Zealand, where I live, and the Uber driver said, "Where's your accent from?" And I just thought that was awesome. You know, I thought, wow, it's this real thing of that's what I've been telling myself. And now here's a guy who's no idea who I am. He doesn't know what I do as a job, and you know, and he said, "Where's your accent from?" What makes successful people? So there's a few things. When you're able-bodied, you know, not every able-bodied person becomes a millionaire or billionaire or a CEO of a company. And those were the people that I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with. And when we had lots of time to talk, and I asked them, I said, you know, what got you to your level of success in life? And they all said at the point of getting comfortable, we pushed ourselves harder. And when I look at us three here, we're pushing ourselves, you know, just doing this podcast, having this conversation. It would have been easy to just wake up or not wake up and be here and be in bed. And I think whether you've got cerebral palsy or seizure or chronic pain or so-called able-bodied is how much are you willing to push yourself? What might it lead on to? So for me with my athletics, that's why I wanted to move on. So you'll remember earlier I said I wanted to travel, I wanted to entertain and connect. That's been the dream. The dream was never to be an athlete, but being an athlete was part of that journey. And it was, you know, no one when I was at school was saying, "Oh, Cam, you know what? You could be a speaker." No one was saying, but someone did say, "Cam, you know what? You could be an athlete."
You were a boring shit before you had seizures.
No, I wasn't, but I did.
No,
the
you
normal-
you were.
that you can tell who your people are is when you walk away, you spent some time with them, and do you walk away feeling a little drained, or do you feel filled up? Like when they leave the room, are you like, oh, I just need to have a sit down, or are you like, you're buzzing and you're like, right, what's next?
Yeah.
And that's your people, is the ones who fill you up. And I get that from my family. Like all my chats with them, if I'm feeling down, I go to my family, and it's like, yeah, they're my people. They've got my back. Like my mum, I call her my cheerleader, because whatever happens in life, she's like, go for it, Nate, go for it, Nate. Who do you need me to fight for you? You know, and it's like having those people that are 100% behind you, and you are equally 100% behind them. Everyone steps up. Everyone gets to have a better life, a more fulfilled, exciting life. Having those people that are 100% behind you, and you are equally 100% behind them, everyone steps up. Everyone gets to have a better life, a more fulfilled, exciting life.